E911 Talk Podcast, Episode 77 for Monday, March 26, 2012.
Welcome to this edition of E911 Talk with your host, Mark Fletcher, Pilot Line Manager for Emergency Services at Avaya. Now, here's Fletch.
Last week, I had the great honor of presenting to a group of telecommunications professionals that I see as a critical element in moving enterprise E911 compliance forward, with the evolution of next-generation 911 technologies and a radical change in how our 911 calls will be processed in the near future. 911 is not a difficult topic, but it is one that is often misunderstood. Based upon my readers' input, my presentations that list the common 911 myths seem to be at the top of the popular list. But you have to stop and think, why do these myths even exist? The answer is simple. It stems from the lack of education within the industry. Now, let me be clear, I'm not saying that the education is missing. I'm saying that there is a lack of people taking advantage of the E911 education and certifications that exist. NENA, the National Emergency Number Association, is known as the voice of 911 and is on the forefront of all emergency communications issues, representing their more than 7,000 members who are all dedicated to saving lives. Their membership is made up of public safety officials, call takers, legislative and regulatory representatives, as well as members from the private sector, such as manufacturers, developers, and consultants. Now, NENA provides the Enp Certification for its emergency number professionals and is a tool to establish the benchmark of performance and signify a broad-based competence in this specialized professional field. Now, before you can even become certifiable, candidates have to meet an experience criteria that includes 3 years dealing with emergency communications directly or with a commercial provider of emergency communications products and services. Now, having satisfied the minimum experience criterion, members must then establish a cumulative total of 10 points, which is calculated based on additional experience, education and professional development, and service. Once you establish your Enp certification, after passing a fairly intensive test, recertification is required every 4 years in order to maintain your Enp designation. Now, the Enp program is quite popular and earlier this year exceeded having 1,000 Enps nationwide. Now, although the NENA Enp certification is open to anyone that passes the minimum requirements, the majority of the consultants that take the time to get certified are consultants that are primarily dealing with public safety answer points and public safety directly. Consulting in the enterprise, especially for E911, is special unto itself. With the E911 technology and architecture rapidly evolving, maybe what is needed is an additional certification for enterprise E911 consulting. As we've talked about in the past, there are many ways administrators can solve their E911 problem. Being correct for their environment requires some knowledge and understanding of how E911 works, how common industry tools and best practices can be deployed, and how to effectively vocalize their needs and requirements in an RFI or RFP. These are all things that consultants do very well, and I've even seen great consultants who initially knew nothing about E911 write very explicit RFI and RFP documents. Why? Because they did their homework on the topic of E911 and they knew how to do what they do best, and that's consult. When you're dealing with your consultant on your next communication system RFI or RFP, make sure they're providing you with some inherent value in the E911 section of that document, and not just a laundry list of acronyms. E911 compliance in the enterprise is much more than, does your PBX support E911 in the 16 states with legislation? Look for specific features and functionality in the solutions that you're considering. Some of the more common features you should take a look at are the ability to identify multiple numbers as emergency calls. This allows for 911, 9911, and other internal emergency numbers to be captured as emergency calls. Location-based routing of emergency calls, based on where the device is on the network. On-site notification mechanisms that include screen pops, email, SMS, or even audio alerts. Integration with other network data repositories, such as LDAP, Active Directory, and others that can provide additional context or information about a 911 caller. the ability to correlate floor plans and other data, such as material safety data sheets that are applicable to an emergency caller, and the ability to then convey that information to internal first responders, and ultimately public safety directly. The ability to handle off-site or VPN remote users that might need a separate technology, and be able to deploy both if desired. Eventually, I think you'll find E911 industry organizations such as NENA will expand their Enp Certification program to include specific certifications or amendments for consultants, as well as organizations such as the Society of Telecommunications Consultants, or STC. Until that time, though, make sure you get real references and call those references when deciding on an E911 consultant for your enterprise.
You've been listening to the E911 Talk podcast with your host, Mark Fletcher, product line manager for emergency services at Avaya. E911 Talk is a weekly podcast available on sites like this, as well as iTunes, and is available free of charge. If you have any comments or questions, you can email Fletch at fletcherm@avaya.com. That's Fletcher, the letter M, at avaya.com. Be sure to listen in next week for more informative topics on E911.